This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote.
Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast, your number one source for WKU sports news and information. And we are the only year-round WKU podcast and the only WKU podcast that covers every single sport and every single athlete at WKU. We are also a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. And make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. As always, I'd especially recommend our Twitter or X, as that's where you're going to get the most live and frequent updates with any important happenings or news, results, etc. that are relevant to WKU sports. And then make sure you slide over to our YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast over there. Give us a subscription, like and comment on those videos. Would really help that. Obviously helps the algorithm and just helps us spread the word to more Hilltopper fans. As always, I've got Tyler here with me, man. We've got another big episode to dive into, man. You ready?
Yeah, man, I am. Let's get into it.
But before we get started with a Delaware victory recap, we have to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap-up, which catches us up with all the athletic news that we missed since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap-up.
All right, so starting off, WKU Sports announced the 2025 Athletic Hall of Fame class. They include Mary Taylor Cowles, William Jelly Green, and Walt Heath.
Yeah, so a pretty impressive list of new entrants for the Hall of Fame class for 2025. Mary Taylor Cowles, a former Lady Topper basketball player, also assistant coach and head coach, was around the program for 21 years, I believe it was, including, I think it was 15, 20 win seasons. So just a lot of winning when she was associated with our Lady Topper program. And then William Jelly Green was a 4-year letter winner for football and then went and did track for a year. He was an All-American defensive back. And Walt Heath was also a 4-year letter winner for football, and he was an All-American defensive lineman. So big congratulations to all three of those individuals for the Hall of Fame honor.
Moving on, WKU basketball announced exhibition games versus Kentucky Wesleyan and UAB with tip-off at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, we had the full schedule a couple weeks ago when the non-conference was announced. Obviously, there were no game times or networks. Those should kind of slowly start trickling in over the next couple weeks as, some of the away games announced theirs. And then usually the full Conference USA slate is announced by like the second week of October. I think it was like the 17th last year. So we're less than 2 weeks away from having the full slate of game times and game networks, but it's nice to know two of them. The KWC games obviously at home. The UAB game will be at Bartow in Birmingham, but both of those at 6:30.
A little bit of pro top news here. The Memphis Showboats of the UFL re-signed Dawood Davis.
Yeah, Dawood's had a good career with UFL. He missed most of last season with an injury, but nice to know that they feel strong enough about him to bring him back as he's getting healthy for this upcoming season.
Some more pro top news. Dalvin Smith signed with the Jacksonville Sharks of the IFL.
Yeah, the Indoor Football League. We've had a couple players go Indoor Football League in the last couple years, but very excited for Dalvin. Obviously, a Barron County boy, Glasgow boy. Yeah, got to represent for the Glasgow boys. But former topper, all-time great in my eyes, man. He was just an athletic freak. All he did was score touchdowns for a long time, and it's weird not seeing that number 17 out on the field this season. But big congratulations to him. getting his first opportunity to play some pro football.
Moving on to the soccer team, they beat La Tech to a score of 1-0, and then beat Sam Houston 1-0 on Sunday.
Yeah, that second game, they won it against Sam Houston in the last minute of the game, and it just wrapped up, within the last hours recording. So definitely cardiac tops. They moved to three wins, no losses, and one tie in Conference USA play. We had some concerns about them in non-conference play, but hey, now they're starting to find the net and get some wins. So great job, ladies.
All right, moving on to Western cross country. Both the women and men claimed victory at the meet Friday night. Kenley Kunkel took the individual crown in the 6K race. In the men's 8K, 8 finished within the top 10, led by Hollis Johnson, who took third place.
Yeah, great team efforts from both of the men's and women's to win their respective races. That's awesome. Then obviously for Kenley Kunkel, which it seems like every time we talk about cross country, she's one of the names that we're talking about. So big congratulations to her for winning the women's individual title. And as always, there's a lot of runners to cover. I mean, the top 5 score. You've got 8 or more running for men's and women. So we're not going to go over the entire results, but you can find the entire results as always on WKUsports.com.
And next, moving on to the volleyball team, they beat Missouri State 3-1 on Friday, and then 3-0 Saturday.
Yeah, doing what they do, winning and keeping on winning. Now that is now 96 consecutive regular season Conference USA victories. That is impressive. Sneaking up on 100, which I mean, as a talking point for us, that's big to get into triple digits. A streak that dates back to 2018. I know someone asked Travis Hudson in his most recent media availability about it. And he said, I don't think about those things. We don't think about those things. This is a new team. This is a new year. This team's completely different than what 2018 was. In my opinion, it means every team that you're playing is giving you their best shot. They're trying to take you down. They want to be the one to end that streak. And Missouri State on Friday night, I mean, they beat us one set. We went to 4. It was only the second game we've had this season that went to a 4th set. And then in the 4th set, we played to 30. Normally it ends at 25. You have to win by 2. It was 30-28. So they pushed us as hard as they could push us to get to a 5th set. We were just able to come out on top. So big congratulations to the volleyball team for a couple tough wins.
And that wraps up this episode's section of the Red Towel Wrap Up. Moth, back to you.
Yeah, good stuff as always. A lot of winning. I mean, if you're following us on Twitter, I've highlighted and recapped all the winning we've done over the last 5 days, from soccer to volleyball to cross country and football. I don't think we've taken a loss in the last week across all of our sports programs. And now we have a game recap to jump into from our game against Delaware. But I do want to highlight, if you're watching us on video, you probably can see right under me, there is a new logo there, new sponsor alert. It is a locally owned company called Roof Girl, WKU alumni, proud WKU alumni. That obviously, with that name, you can assume she works on roofs if you have any residential roofing needs. Also does gutters, sidings, and many other home renovation or repair projects that you may need done. So glad to have her on board, joining us as a segment sponsor. Moving forward, will be the game preview and game recap segment sponsor. So just definitely proud to have another WKU based company joining us, like we have with Fireman Company and like we had previously with Trent Bedding. I think we take pride in not just going out and grabbing anyone. We want to have pro WKU companies. So definitely welcome to the Topper Talk episode and family, Roof Girl. Now, getting into the game recap, WKU went on the road to Newark, Delaware, to face the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens in Delaware's first ever Conference USA matchup against Western Kentucky. The game was played in front of an announced crowd of 19,176 people. We talked about in the preview They were expecting a good crowd. Their stadium hosts 18,500 people, so they were over capacity. It was a sellout. It was a solid crowd. They showed up even for a Friday night. A lot of schools would use the excuse, high school football, other stuff going on, fall break starting here in Warren County. Um, but it was a big matchup for them. They were 3-1 entering. We were 4-1 entering. It was parents and family weekend there for Delaware, and they showed up and they showed out and they were very loud and very present. So big congratulations to them on the turnout for the game. The game was a back and forth affair with Delaware holding a lead at half. It was 17-10. WKU was able to capitalize on a couple second half turnovers and take the lead and eventually take control. Then the defense did just enough, but allowed a final minute drive that, fortunately for WKU, ended in a potential game tying field goal being missed. And WKU was able to get out of there with the victory 27-24. The win moves WKU to 5-1 overall. And more importantly, we are 3-0 in Conference USA play with a bye week coming this next week. And then we have a home game on Tuesday, 10-14 against FIU next on the schedule. Coming into this game, I think both of us were talking about this being a potential shootout game. Yeah, it was a matchup that featured two of the top offenses in Conference USA, but it turned out to be a little lower scoring. I think both of us predicted. Both of the defenses kind of showed up more than I would expect. A lot of bend don't break from both sides. Plus, don't get me started on the penalties for WKU. We are going to talk more about them, but there were just penalties on WKU, or you could say a lack of penalties on Delaware, that just allowed this game to be a little sloppier and not as good flowing as it normally would be. Then obviously Delaware had those costly turnovers that turned this game into a lower scoring slugfest than expected. It wasn't the prettiest win by any means for WKU, but that kind of has become the common running theme these last three games. A win is a win. We are officially at the midway point of the season. We're 6 games in on the 12-game schedule. 5-1 overall, 3-0 in conference play. It's hard to complain about where we're at right now, with that only loss being to Toledo several weeks ago now at this point. Tyler, what are your thoughts on just how this game played out?
Well, yeah, I knew it was going to be a hard game. It's going to be a game where really, you had to come and you had to play your best ball, and I think we both said that in the preview. Thankfully, though, it didn't turn out that way. We didn't play our best ball, but we still walked out there with the win. And like we also said, the slow starts is very concerning. But I mean, I didn't get to watch it. I was down in the hospital down in Tennessee visiting my dad, but I did get to listen to it on the way back. And over the radio, you could hear the Delaware fans. I mean, it was. I'm very surprised that it was that loud in there. I think that's awesome. I hope they keep it up. Kind of wish we could kind of get that support down here during a week game, or maybe even a weekend game. And hopefully we will. But I mean, you're right. It wasn't our prettiest ball by any stretch of the imagination, but it's always good to come out of a place with a win.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the staff members after the game about the crowd. I said, "Man, what about that, man? They showed up." He said, "Yeah, they showed up and they were loud." So he was, very impressed with the Delaware crowd. Obviously, they didn't come out there with, how they wanted the game to end, but they should be very proud of themselves for how they played. Nothing to hang their head about. And that crowd was impressive. And I think we knew that. We talked about coming into the game. They were pushing 18,000 both of their previous home games. So we expected a good crowd. And they delivered on it and over delivered. They were over capacity. So super proud of Delaware. I think they're a solid addition to the Conference USA family, and they're going to be tough. They're well coached. They had a lot of good talent, and as long as they can keep that all together, I think they're going to be a good team for years to come. You touched on the slow start. We got to talk about it. Delaware got the ball first, and they were able to methodically go down the field and score a touchdown first to make it 7-0. WKU got the ball back, and we actually were moving the ball quite well. We had gone 6 plays and 44 yards. We were moving the ball. We were just beyond midfield, but then the fumble bug hit us. We had an unfortunate fumble that gave the ball right back to Delaware. And man, the first thing that popped into my head was, oh no, it's Toledo. It's Toledo again. Especially when I saw the way that Delaware moved that ball that first drive. It was like an 8-minute, 70-yard drive, went down and scored very methodically. Good mix of pass and run. And I was just like, man, this is going to get 14-0 real quick. And then how do we reply? Luckily, we were able to get the ball back. Then we we ended up trading field goals, and then we traded touchdowns right before halftime, with the last touchdown being scored by Delaware with 0 seconds left on the first half clock to take a 17-10 lead going in halftime. After halftime, the teams traded punts, and then WKU added a field goal to make it 17-13. Delaware leading. And then suddenly the turnover bug hit Delaware. They threw a pick six by Nick Manicucci, threw an interception to Karan Hayward, and he returned that for a touchdown, swung all the momentum back to WKU. We took our first lead of the game, and then Delaware got the ball back, and they were putting together a really nice drive. They got all the way down to inside the 5-yard line. And then Dylan Flowers, one of our defensive backs, came in, put his helmet on the ball, forced a fumble from their quarterback that went into the end zone, were covered by us, and was a touchback, gave the ball back to us, and we were able to turn that into a 9-play, 80-yard drive and take a 27-17 lead going into the fourth quarter, which, quite frankly, had been WKU. We had been outscoring opponents 55-9 in the fourth quarter this season. In the fourth quarter, Delaware added a touchdown to start the quarter to make the lead now down to 27-24. We then punted the ball back to Delaware. Delaware was driving and then went for it on fourth down. They were unable to convert. And that was after I would call it a bad spot. We talked about penalties early. We kind of alluded to some refs not being great. Delaware was definitely on the receiving end of a bad call. They got a bad spot running out of bounds. Looked like it was real close to getting the first down on a third down play. Didn't get it. It was initially 4th and 2. Then they respotted it to 4th and 1. They went for it on 4th down and were unable to convert. We get the ball back with about 3 minutes left. We should have and could have ran the ball and the timeout with 3 minutes left. Delaware had 2 timeouts left, so we just needed 2 first downs to get to the 2-minute warning. And then once under the 2-minute warning, 1 more first down would have won the game. But we were unable to do that. We ended up punting back to Delaware with just under 1 minute. I think there was like 56 seconds remaining when we punted, and they caught the ball inside the 5-yard line. Cole Maynard, pinned them beautifully deep. Their return man didn't call for a fair catch, and he absolutely paid the price. He got drilled inside the 5-yard line, but no timeouts left, under 1 minute, and they need to go basically 96 yards to score a touchdown or to put themselves in field goal range to tie the game. They did move quite a bit down the field. They got to the other side of the 50 pretty quickly, thanks in part to a couple of WKU penalties. Surprise, surprise. Then they were lining up. They attempted a 42-yard field goal attempt that would have tied the game as time was running out, but they missed wide right. The Tops hold on in another thriller. And quite frankly, given the circumstances, being on short rest, being on the road, being the underdog, it came down to a missed kick. We knew it was going to be a tough, hard-fought game. You alluded to the kicker issues on social media after the preview. So I think most of us are going to be happy walking out of there with that victory, with all the variables we had going against us. A win's a win. 5-1, 3-0. What are your thoughts on the game, Tyler, and how it played out given just everything?
Well, it's like we were fighting at the beginning against an uphill battle. Just this whole game, penalties was a big factor. We always hurting ourselves, helping out Delaware. Some kind of questionable calls by the coaches. I feel like ain't unwarranted. Kind of like on that fourth and I think it was 3 there when we punted the ball back to them there at the end of the game. But initially, whenever Delaware's first few drives, I mean, they just went down the field like it was nothing. Their QB is a very, very talented quarterback. Some of his receivers are really good. They just took care of the ball in the first half, and they did exactly what they wanted to do, and they did, and they really controlled it. But overall, I think our defense came up strong. Defense played great. Kind of like the takeaway tops coming back, rearing their ugly head, or I guess pretty head for us. But I mean, I didn't think they would get as far down the field as they did in 56 seconds or 55 seconds. Just a testament to how good of an offense they are and how dangerous they can be. But yeah, I'm glad their kicker's only now two of 6 for the season. The bad thing was his long was 43, and he was like 42 yards out. So just helping us out, man. Other than that, I think it was a great game. Very, very good. Very proud of the way the Tops played and held their composure. But yes, our defense came up big with them 2 takeaways.
Yeah, you're talking about their drives. They had an 8-play drive. Then I think their next touchdown drive was a 14-play drive, and then I think they had a 15 or a 16-play drive. So they just, again, we talked about them being probably the most balanced offense we had played all season. Really good mix of run and pass, really good methodical drives down the field, took a lot of time off the clock, very good play calling by their head coach, Ryan Carty. So, again, hats off to the entire Delaware team. Any fans that may be listening, I know quite a few listen to the preview, may listen to the recap. A lot of hopefully mutual respect with how this game went. I know it's a tough one to swallow if we were on the other end of a couple turnovers and missing a field goal and feeling like we were right there to upset somebody, that they consider kind of the standard bearer of Conference USA. I would feel pretty bad about it. But they should feel pretty good being a first-year Conference USA member and how they played and represented themselves. And like we said, they're going to be good for years to come. That's a tough team. Jumping into some player stats, our leading passer was quarterback Maverick McIver. He was 23 out of 31, 230 passing yards, only 1 touchdown pass, no interceptions. And probably the biggest shock of the day, he was also our leading rusher by yards. He has 6 carries for 36 yards and a 6-yard per carry average. It was nice to see him run. We had mentioned it a few times earlier this year. He's had opportunities where he could have pulled the ball down and had plenty of green grass in front of him to go get a first down. And he just wasn't doing it. He was trying to use his arm, trying to force throws. And I'd been telling people all spring and fall, summer, he's sneaky fast. And he kind of proved that in this game. He had a couple of nice runs. One we rode out, one straight up the middle. With 6 carries, 36 yards, solid running efforts and debut by Maverick McIver. Also want to mention Marvis Parrish had 5 carries for 27 yards and a 5.4 yard per carry average. Matt Henry was our leading receiver with yards. He had 4 receptions for 99 yards. Katie Hutchison was our leading receiver in receptions. He had 9 total receptions for 58 yards. It seems like every time we needed a tough reception or a third down conversion, KD was the guy catching the ball. And then I was really impressed by Cam Flowers. He got a lot more reps than he usually gets because Jairus Mack was ruled out of the game before the game kicked off. Cam Flowers was in and had 5 receptions for 37 yards. That's a redshirt sophomore, I believe, or redshirt freshman. He's a young player, just getting his first chances on the field, really. And having a good start to the season and a little bit of time that he's been on the field. So, Tyler, what about these offensive guys? How they look to you, or did anyone else stand out?
Well, yeah, but I'm going to first say whenever I was listening to on the radio on the ride back to Glasgow, they said Maverick threw into double coverage, and that particular play was the highlight of Matt Henry catching that back shoulder catch in double coverage, a thing of beauty. But yeah, I'd like to mention Lavelle Wright. He had 9 carries, 26 yards, 2.9 average. And George Hart had 4 carries for 7 yards, but he also had one reception for 5 yards, which was a touchdown. It's always great whenever them running backs can get out into the flats or on that wheel route and get back there and catch ball. Then Musa Berry had 1 catch for 12 yards. Noah Meyer, he was kind of absent. I think he was. I don't think he played much in the first half. Whenever I was listening to in the second half, Randy Lee was talking about. It's been Wolf out there as a tight end for most of the night, but it was good to see him get back out there. But other than that, man, yeah, it was great to see Maverick finally get them wheels running and get going.
Yeah, he can do it, and I hope we see more of it this season as our run game kind of continues to involve a threat of a quarterback running even better. Not only the running backs, but a four-headed running room now with our running backs and Maverick. Looking at the defensive stats for the game, Jalen Wester was our leading tackler. He had 9 total tackles, with 5 of those being solo. Miller Malone also had 9 tackles. 2 of those were solo, and he had half a tackle for loss. Dylan Flowers, man, it seemed like he was everywhere. 7 total tackles, 6 of those were solo, and he had that forced fumble. He put his helmet on the ball when Nick Manicucci was down by the goal line and forced that fumble. And then Karan Hayward, he had the interception that led to the pick six. I think it was 35-ish yards that he returned that to the house. Always nice to see a big man touchdown. He knew what to do with the ball and took it to the house. As a team, we only allowed 24 points. I mean, that's going to win a lot of ball games. I was really proud with how they played. Again, this was a team coming in that has averaged 39 points per game in their 3 previous wins. I think it was 31 points if you look at their overall scoring average, including their loss to Colorado. So held them below their season average. And a couple of those were just, hey, they were driving and we took the ball away. We held them to 3.6 yards per rush, which, again, coming in, we were worried about Joe Silver and that 7.2 yards per carry, but we were really able to bottle him up, kept him in check. And honestly, it was the quarterback, Nick Manicucci. I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He was the one that kind of ate us alive when they got down near the goal line. And then obviously the defense forcing 2 turnovers, man. Just an absolutely solid performance by our defense, Tyler. What did you think of those guys or anyone else that stood out to you?
Yeah, so DeMarco Williams, he had 6 total tackles, 5 solo. He had 1 pass defended. Uh, Jalen Lewis, he had 5 total tackles, 5 total, 5 solo. He had 2 tackles for loss. Rylan Suafalo, he had 5 total tackles, 1 solo, 1.5 tackle for loss. Yeah, the defense really came in clutch this time because not only were the turnovers at points that benefited us hugely. They stopped 1 touchdown and then we actually scored one on the other one. So right there is a huge momentum shift, and I'm just glad that they was able to come up big for us.
Yeah, we absolutely probably don't win this game without those turnovers. I mean, both of them were momentum killers, momentum swingers. Obviously, adding 7 immediately, and then the other one stopped them from adding 7 and added 7 to us when we drove back down and scored. So turning turnovers into points, that's going to win you ball games, and I was glad we were able to do that. Looking at the special teams guys, they did what they always do. John Cannon, 2 out of 2 on field goals, 3 out of 3 on extra points. Perfect night. Cole Maynard only had 3 punts on the night, had a 46-yard average, with 2 of those being down inside the 20 and a long of 52 yards. Tyler, what about your thoughts on the special teamers?
Special team doing special team things. All their numbers look great. I just wish Cole Maynard didn't have to go out there them 3 times, maybe once, twice at most, but 3 times. I wish we could have converted some third downs and kept him off the field on the bench.
Yeah, now we're going to jump into our keys to victory recap that we do every single week. We talk about these in the preview, what we need to do to win the game. And then I like touching back, looking back to see if we did those things and how it played into a victory or a defeat. So, first off, Tyler, you had us needing to start fast. How did we do?
Well, we didn't start fast, but we didn't absolutely start dead. I wish we could have started a little bit faster, but I mean, we were held pointless through the first quarter.
Yeah, the turnover bug was brutal. My first key to victory was also start fast. I want to see points on the first drive, and it just feels like it hasn't happened this season. It's there for the taking. We just got to play cleaner football. So we definitely didn't start as fast as I would have liked. Tyler, your second key to victory was forced turnovers. How do we do?
We did great on that one. Like we mentioned, or like you said, if we didn't get them turnovers, we probably wouldn't have won this game. So I think we did great.
Yeah, we first forced two turnovers. My second key to victory was win the turnover battle. We had one turnover, they had two, so we won the turnover battle. It's nice to be in plus margin there. And then your third key to victory, Tyler, was get off the line and apply pressure. How do we do there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we our offensive players, running backs, and QB was able to get the ball out past the line and get positive yardage. And Maverick was also able to throw the ball, had time. I think we did good there. Defense, we didn't really get to him too much. We didn't get one sack, but I mean, we was able to keep their running backs in check and really, like you said, it was just that QB that got loose a few times.
We honestly we did a pretty good job of getting push on the defensive line. We were moving their offensive line at times. We never got to the quarterback. He was a pretty mobile guy. So the no sacks thing, it's kind of that yin and yang of, he's mobile. They got the ball out quick. They were methodical about their offense and their tempo. I like what we did defensively, even though we never got to the quarterback. We never got a sack. I think we had several tackles for loss. So we did decent in getting off the line and applying pressure, just no sacks to show for it. And then my third key to victory was slow down the Delaware running game. And I would have to say we did that. We did not let Joe Silver just run wild on us. They had a decent running day, not a great running day, and kind of forced their quarterback to be the one that was beating us with his legs more than beating us with his arm. So, I'll take that as a win all day. Now, moving down into the key indicators, and a couple of these are kind of skewed when you look at total yards and you look at first downs, because WKU several times, especially early in the game, we had short fields. We were getting the ball around midfield on when we were punting it back and forth, just field position battle. We were just on the plus side of things a lot. And then that pick six obviously helped with the yardage, that we didn't have an opportunity to gain because the defense got it. But the indicators, man, first downs 29-16 favors Delaware. Again, a big chunk of that just being, that turnover that led to a touchdown. And then just the short fields that we had early. And then the third down conversions, WKU was 9 out of 14. Delaware was 9 out of 16. So I'll take a positive win there. Total yards, WKU 338, Delaware 435. So a Delaware victory there. Turnovers, WKU 1, Delaware 2. So a WKU victory there. And then penalties. WKU had 8 penalties for 90 yards. Meanwhile, Delaware had 1 for 15 yards. Now, again, I'm not one. I don't like to blame refs, and I'm not blaming refs. But when I got on Twitter after and during the game and I saw Delaware accounts complaining about the refs, I said, guys, they called a kick catch interference on one of our players who didn't touch your return man. That happens every single college football, pro football game you'll watch. There will be somebody right beside the return man in his ear to drop it, drop that ball. If you drop it, it's mine. And got called without touching him. That's the only penalty that we got that I disagree with. I will say we earned most of our penalties. We earned 7 of those 8 penalties, whether it was holding, false starts, pass interference. We earned those penalties that we got. But to say and to look at me with a straight face and say that Delaware played such a clean game that the only penalty they had was with 0 seconds left on the clock in the first half. They got an unsportsmanlike penalty after the touchdown and extra point rolling over into the second half. Their only penalty of that game was for the 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. No holding, no pass interference, nothing else egregious in the game. There's no team in America that plays that clean of a ball game. There were several instances where some holding calls could have been called. A pass interference or two could have been called against Delaware. So please don't complain about the refs and the officiating when you only had one penalty called on you for 15 yards. I will agree with you that the one spot on third going into fourth down was a bad spot. You got a bad spot on the ball. They reviewed it and respotted it. Quite frankly, they cleaned it up as much as they could. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about officiating. But just bigger picture, I went back and looked at WKU's 6 games so far. We are averaging 7 penalties for 77 yards through 6 games, which is, I mean, it's not terrible, and really the North Alabama game, we had 12 penalties for 120 yards. When I was looking at those game by game, that one just kind of really throws that average up there. So it's an opportunity. It's something that seems to have reared its head over the last 3 and 4 games that we need an opportunity to clean up and do better because even the broadcast guys mentioned, man, that's a penalty, that's a drive killer, that's a momentum staller. You're moving down the field, moving down the field, moving down the field, and all of a sudden you got a third and long instead of a third and short because of a dumb penalty. So that's just something, just Helton's known for having a team that's not penalized that much. The last few years we've been on the lower end in the NCAA of penalties, and this year I didn't look at where we stand, in the 136, but we're definitely higher than we generally are this season. In this game, 8 for 90. Again, we earned basically all those. So just an opportunity to clean up and get better, or it's going to end up biting us down the line. We've had a couple close fought victories here the last few weeks. We don't need to hurt ourselves with dumb penalties. And then lastly, on the key indicators, time of possession, WKU had the ball for 27 minutes and 26 seconds, while Delaware had the ball for 32 minutes and 34 seconds. Jumping into some grades, Tyler, what grade do you have for the offense versus Delaware?
I'll give the offense an A in this game. A minus. There is a few things a few bigger plays I wish we could have made. Maybe some smarter passes by McIver, but I mean he was 23-31. I'm not going to hate him too much on that. And I think our run game, they added in 108 yards, which it could have been better, but also we did get out there with a win. So I'm going to give him an A minus.
I'm gonna go with a B, and that's just because I'm being a hard critic, man. 27 points, and 7 of those were on defense, so 20 points from your offense. Granted, we got out of there with a W, but man, I thought this was going to be a game that was going to be first to 40, a little bit more of a shootout, and we just haven't seen the offense be as clicking and as in rhythm as we know they can be. That's a good problem to have the first week of October. I think our best football is still ahead of us. I think our defense is playing great as far as bend don't break, keeping people out of the end zone, forcing turnovers. But man, I'd love to see a few more points on the board. I'd love for us to get above 30 points more consistently, and we just haven't been there the last few weeks. So I'm gonna give offense a B. What about your grade for the defense versus Delaware?
Oh, defense getting an A plus for me. Defense came out strong. Defense held their own. They forced 2 turnovers. Yes, we did let Minichucci get loose a few times. He was 28-47, so we obviously played good. Our defensive backs played good. So I'm going to give the defense an A plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the defense an A as well. They won us this game with those 2 turnovers. the difference in this ball game. Obviously, the missed field goal helps. The defense kind of got in prevent mode that last minute of the game, a couple penalties, whatever it is, walked down the field, had an opportunity to make a long field goal, and gladly, luckily, however you want to look at it, they missed. But overall, man, the defense is playing well. I like what I see. I think they're continuing to improve every game. Holding someone to 24 points again, that's going to win. That should win you a lot of ball games in Conference USA. And if they keep that up, I really like our odds going forward. What about your grade for the special teams?
Special teams, I think it's death taxes and special teams probably getting an A plus is going to be my new saying. Special teams played great. Special teams did what they're supposed to do. Cole Maynard, pinned them back. Did he have any touchbacks? No, he had two inside the 20, and his long was 52. And then John Cannon, just automatic. So for me, special teams getting A plus.
Death, taxes, and special teams gets an A. Put it on a T-shirt. Sell the merch. Yeah, I like it. Special teams gets an A plus for me for everything you said and more. Just doing their job, doing it well, no blunders. That's what you want to see out of them. So perfect game from them. What about your grade for coaching?
Yeah, coaching could take a little hit here. As I was driving back, Randy was talking about, and Randy was talking about Delaware having some pretty fast linebackers, and obviously throwing screen passes is something that we like to rely on. But if they got little short linebackers that's quick, you're going to have to change it up a little bit. And just power over them. I feel like we did call some more screen passes, and obviously they're at the end giving Delaware the ball back with less than a minute to go. After watching all game that they can move the ball fast down the field, or they can chew up as much time as they want. I didn't necessarily like the call to run it with like 4 and 3. I kind of wish we would have, did some slants or some other kind of passing play. But I think the coaches for me is going to get a B plus, and that may be a little too hard, but I thought our coaches should see that and be aware.
Yeah, I think coaching is going to get a B from me as well, and mainly it's because of the end of the game. I get you want to run the ball, you want to chew as much clock as you can, but man, you also want to get that first down. I mean, we were a few yards of one more first down away from not having to sweat kicking the ball back to Delaware, not having to sweat about them going down the field via penalties or via a big play or they had 12 seconds left on the clock and were within range that they could have took a shot at the end zone. Why they didn't, I don't know. They chose to spike the ball and kick the field goal. But we could have been on the end of a last second, upset loss there at the end, but they decided to kick the field goal and they missed it. But sometimes you just got to take that option out of their hands. And if we gotten one more first down, 3 more yards, a little bit more aggressive play calling than rotating all 3 backs. And I think Hart, Parrish, and Lavelle all got carries that last drive when we needed just one more first down. I think you give it to Lavelle, the power back, the guy that's carried us the last 2 games, and let him do what he does and get that first down. We didn't do it. We got the win. Obviously, it's hard to complain too much, but I think a B overall is fair. What about your overall grade for this victory versus Delaware?
I think overall it would be just a flat A. Am I absolutely thrilled with the way we played? No. Can we play better? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it still goes up into the W column, and I'm not going to be mad that we did win. As you said, coming in on a short week, going into a packed stadium that's not full of friendly faces, and to be able to and to get bogged down in just one heck of a game, it shows that we got that fight in us, we got that dog in us.
Yeah, I'm right there. I'm going to give 'em a B overall. Again, not our cleanest game, not our best game, but a game that was gritty and a game that was tough. And I would rather take an ugly victory than a pretty loss. I still think and hope that our best football is ahead of us. Um, yeah, I think we got things to clean up, but that's not anything new. And obviously, the coaches and players, staff, etc., are working on that. Tyler, who have you got for your player of the game versus Delaware?
All right. I'm going to go with Ron Hayward. Big man touchdown. Stumbling, bumbling, getting down there with the pick six, but George Hart is equally as worthy of it, and so is Maverick, and so is KD Hutchinson. But it's not every day that we see a big man pick six. So Karan, he's got it.
Karan Hayward, player of the game. I like it. I went with one of the offensive guys. I went with Katie Hutchison. 9 receptions for I think it was 58 yards, whatever it was. Again, it just seemed like every time we needed a big catch, a big third down conversion, it seemed like we went to him. We were out there finding number two, and he was getting us across the stick. So I think he was definitely instrumental. If I was doing two, if I was doing co-player of the games, I'd probably go Karan Hayward. That's a solid pick as well. We don't get to pick those defensive guys very much, and he definitely is right there in the discussion in my eyes as well. But man, glad to get this one behind us. Had been a little nervous about this one. The more we kind of studied Delaware coming into the game, being the betting line underdog, knowing that we were going to go into a packed house with a good crowd, good environment, a team that was riding a 10-game winning streak, 5-game winning streak coming off a bye. Both of those have now been snapped. They're starting over. And now Western Kentucky 5-1, 3-0 in conference. We're looking at an 11-day layoff between that game and our next game versus FIU on 10/14. FIU is also coming. They're on a bye now. They just played UConn yesterday and got absolutely smacked. It was not pretty. If you watch that, you're not really that worried about FIU at this point, but we'll dive into them later this week. But they're also on bye. They've got 10 days of rest. They don't play in week 7, but we both play obviously on Tuesday the 14th. There will be a pregame concert, Blanco Brown, South Lawn. As of right now, the weather is looking perfect for football. High of 75, low of 58. Hopefully it stays that way. Sunny, no chance of rain. Should be perfect weather for a huge, huge atmosphere, a great pregame concert, and then hopefully all them students and everyone, all that energy has to get inside the stadium. I know it's a midweek. I know it's a Tuesday night game. I know it's FIU. It's not that exciting as far as who we're playing, but we've got to show up. We have to support this team that's 5-1, 3-0 in conference, controls their destiny right now, and just from the looks of the Conference USA right now, it's Louisiana Tech, us, and then everybody else at this point. And we play Louisiana Tech in a couple weeks. We'll find out who's the favorite. But we still control our destiny. We can be in the conference championship game. We can host a conference championship game. Been since 2016. Um, but we've got to have fans show up, not use the midweek as an excuse. There's going to be plenty of people in attendance for the concert. It's going to be good weather. Get out and support these tops. Let's pack the house. Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on out of here.
Yeah, as I was listening to the post game interview with Coach, and I think Randy Lee asked him, he was like, "You remember the last time the top started off like 5-1?" And it was either 2015 or 2016. And yeah, that's crazy that was the last time that we started off 5-1. So yes, I really hope the fans come and support this team whenever they play FIU. Bring that Blanco Brown energy in there. Yes, it's a Tuesday, but I know the students. As I was a student, I skipped some classes because of sometimes I just didn't feel good. So it's doable. So come out, have some fun. And be loud and support your team. Also, support the other athletic programs that are going on. Basketball is going to be starting up here in a few weeks. You got cross country. You got volleyball. Go and have some fun with them. Fun supporting them. And yeah, let's keep this train moving. Hopefully, well, I'm not thinking FIU is going to beat us. Spoiler alert for the preview. But it should still be a good game, and I'd really like to see that place almost sold out. But yeah, Moff, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, y'all.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.